You are listening to the Vaultcast, the official podcast of the B-Movie Film Vault, with your hosts, Jordan Guerin and Silent Steve Oldford.
Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 4 of the Vaultcast. This is Jordan again, and
Silent Steve.
And today is the 39th anniversary of Steven Spielberg's Jaws, so we're doing a Jaws show.
And I'm just extremely excited to do this podcast. This is by far the one I wanted to do the most, and it'll be obvious once we get talking because I'm not going to shut up. But anyway, before we get into Jaws, in this first segment, we have to have an addendum to our summer movie Vaultcast. We forgot to mention last Vaultcast here that Jupiter Ascending got pushed back.
Yes it did. Stupider Ascending.
Yeah. So it's pushed back to February 2015, which is always a good sign, right?
That's a death knell for any movie, except RoboCop somehow overcame that.
So maybe it isn't a bad sign. I think the bad sign was the trailer. And they're like, wow, no one's interested in seeing this. So for the 2 people that were going to watch Jupiter Ascending, maybe 3, it's not going to be out till February. And there's some movie news I want to get into.
Okay.
So just some fresh stuff that came out this week. 3 different things that I thought were interesting, at least worth talking about. And take all of them with a grain of salt because they're all the wildest, vaguest rumors possible. I'll start with the Star Wars one. I guess some plot points leaked.
Ooh, I know one.
What?
In the film, Harrison Ford breaks his leg. Damn it.
Yeah, it was his foot. But yeah.
No, it's worse than that. It was his leg.
Oh, was it his leg?
Yes, it was his leg. Sorry.
So,
I botched my own joke.
Well, I think that's kind of a good sign. That means he's doing something physical. I kind of thought that all the old cast members would be just sitting around. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just...
So what's the Star Wars
The
news?
Star Wars plot point, and this may be a spoiler. It kind of sounds like something that would just be in the title scroll, but I guess it's going to be about Jedi hunters that worship the Sith and want to resurrect them, and their mandate was to protect the Sith at all costs to ensure their survival. And Luke Skywalker has been fighting to stop this for the last 30 years of his life, but he's outnumbered, tired, and in need of help. So, somebody said this is similar to the Star Wars Rebels plot. I don't follow any of the outside universe.
No, neither do I.
If it is, without looking it up, if it is connected to that, I think this is a fan-made rumor. But if it isn't, see, here's the problem.
They are. I was talking to our buddy Gary, who's a huge Star Wars nut. He said they are making a Rebels animated show. Disney's making a Rebels animated series. So maybe the movie will tie into the series. I don't know.
Well, Marvel's doing that. Maybe Disney's taking a page out of their book since they do business together. So that could be possible. They're trying to make one singular universe. I know they're doing spin-off movies.
Yes.
At this point, I'm approaching it with a little, trepidation, as far as how they handle it. But I personally can't be any more disappointed than I was in the prequels. I actually think those Ewok adventures are better than the Lucas prequels. So that's how badly I think of those. So anyway, but what I thought was, though, if this was leaked from the studio, or if this is news from the studio, this is so Abrams and how he teases movies, and he loves leaking information that has nothing to do with the actual movie. Mm-hmm. He did it with Cloverfield, really bad. He even set up a website that was
made up a fake company called Slusho or something.
Yeah, you remember that? Yeah,
I do.
So he loves teasing you ahead of time. He loves that internet stuff. To get excitement around the movie, you would need that with Star Wars, but because he also just tweeted, "Oh, I don't know why fans keep talking about the Millennium Falcon. That's going to be in the movie. Come on, really, dude?
It's going to be in the movie.
Even if it's in Han Solo's garage and he's just wiping it down, and he only takes it out in the summertime." It's going to be in the movie.
I'm pretty sure that's how Harrison Ford's leg got broken, is one of the doors of Millennium Falcon actually closed on.
Yeah, that would make sense. So anyway, if this is the story, I guess it could be interesting. It kind of craps on the nice pat conclusion they came up with on Return of the Jedi. So you destroy the Empire, but you still have problems.
I don't think the Empire is fully destroyed. The bulk of their power is gone.
Well, they cut the head off the snake.
Yeah.
So, now it's like the Taliban running around, I guess.
Well, yeah, somebody else will come along and grab the remnants, pull them back together.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that happens in the books at some point.
This doesn't actually, even though it might be interesting if they take the story this way, this leak doesn't really answer the real question that everyone's asking right now about this movie, and that is, how much lens flare is there going to be?
I hope he's cut it down a lot.
There better not be any. really, because there wasn't any in any of the other Star Wars movies.
True.
Well, no, that's not true. That isn't true.
Was there a lot of... Which one?
The very first one, in my heart, the first one.
Yeah. Star Wars.
New Hope.
Don't even call it New Hope. It's Star Wars.
Remember when he gets saved by the Millennium Falcon? It looks like it's a shot coming out of the sun. That's a lens flare there.
Was that added after the fact, though, or was that in the original untampered version?
Well, I think... Ooh, I can't remember now.
See?
It's been so long since I've seen the originals.
But supposedly Disney's going to release them on Blu-ray.
Because Disney's smart, because Disney likes money.
Yeah. It'll be the top-selling Blu-rays of all time.
Oh, yeah. If they release it, I'll buy it, like, the day of. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love the original 3. So... And I love them like they are. I don't need the extra stuff at all. It was kind of neat, the first one, because first off, I was seeing it in a theater for the first time.
Exactly.
And it was also neat. Some of the little things they added, but they just added too much. And some of it, it was all fluff. You didn't need any of it, so... I don't know. It's kind of pointless.
They started fixing things, and then he went overboard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it was kind of like, we're doing this, but we didn't need to fix that much.
We totally needed a song and dance number in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Well, the thing is, and I want to go back to the lens flare, the thing is, at some point, Abrams went to film school, and he learned the word Artur, and he realized that, okay, I have to develop something, because an Artur is, like, you know that movie was directed by this guy without even seeing the credits. Yeah. That's basically, that's when you're an Artur. You know when you're watching a Spielberg movie, you know when you're watching a Tarantino movie, or a Fellini movie, or a Sergio Leone movie, you know it. So I guess he wants to be known as the lens flare guy, because he's put so much of it in his movies.
It was. There
was like over, I think somebody counted, it's like over 200 in the second Star Trek movie.
Yeah, it got to the point where it was like a parody in that movie, because there were scenes where I thought the cast members were being blinded by the lens flares, because I was.
He likes it. He likes the aesthetic of it, but he needs to like
tone it
down a lot.
Yes.
I have a lot more hope for Gareth Edwards' spinoff.
Yeah. Do we know what that's about yet?
No. It doesn't matter, though, because Edwards did a better job mimicking Spielberg with Godzilla than Abrams did with Super 8. Because Abrams visually got it right, but the spirit of a Spielberg movie wasn't there. Mm-hmm. Godzilla, at its soul, was like a classic Spielberg monster movie.
Yeah.
And I think the soul is the important part of the movie. You can add your own visual flair, which Edwards did. So I'm looking forward to see what he does a lot more than what Abrams does. Yeah. And I guess today I saw that the director of Looper is going to finish off the trilogy. Abrams doing the first one.
Oh, really?
And then, what's his face? I can't remember his name now.
I can't either, but I love Looper.
We do this every show.
We do.
You're listening. Look it up.
That's what annotations are for on YouTube.
Yeah, this is an interactive show. The stuff we don't know, you can look up. But we know the guy. I mean, the director of Looper. Which Looper, I have my personal issues with it, but he's done competent movies. I think he'll do fine with it. He definitely could add a dark twist that along the lines of Irvin Kershner. Yeah. So, I want to do a sequel show at some point. Okay. And I think he's the best sequel director of all time.
I can only think of 2, though.
That's all you need.
I did 2 good sequels. I'm done, guys. Well, no, James Cameron could be on that list, too.
Yeah, Cameron did amazing sequels.
So,
alright, so I want to close the Star Wars stuff there. I'm sure we're going to talk about it more in the future.
Absolutely.
But, the other thing that popped up online that interested me was Max Landis did a Ghostbusters tweet this week. Did you read it?
I did read that.
Okay. I'm going to read it out loud for our listeners. It started out as, like, I guess he was rumored to be attached to the movie, which I never heard.
Many people are rumored to be attached to the movie.
This may be something that he's doing sort of like when Snoop Dogg told everybody that he was going to be in Starsky and Hutch, and they were forced to hire him at that point because he told everybody he was doing it. And maybe that's what Max Landis is doing. I don't know. But it says in his tweet, "My Ghostbusters 3 began in the 1920s with Ivo Shandor murdering a gluttonous associate to protect his cult after he has a moral objection. Shandor tells the overweight man that nothing can stop the coming of Gozer. First, the gate will open in 1984, then again 20 years later. The fat man, who has all the details of Shandor's plans, threatens to go to police, and Shandor poisons him. It's scary, but as Shandor escapes, we see that we're in the Sedgwick Hotel, and that the guy we just saw die is Slimer. A bunch of people went crazy about this and thought it was a great idea. And when you first read it, it does feel, ooh, that's cool. But then I read it again. I read it twice.
Yes.
Before I formed an opinion. First off, I don't understand why Gozer would have a plan to open the gate twice. You'd have to know the gate was going to close in 84.
Yeah.
That's kind of dumb. I don't understand why...
In 2004, I guess they're going by the video game story. That was kind of like the third movie.
Maybe. Who knows what this guy's thinking.
But, yeah. But here's the thing. It sounds really cool, but are they making a Slimer-centric Ghostbusters movie?
Yeah. I mean, this is the opening of the movie, and all the Ghostbusters openings are great.
Yeah.
But it's not the meat of the movie. I don't know what the movie's about at this point, other than it's nostalgia heavy. And I think dangerous to have nostalgia, and we saw it worse in Star Wars, in a film trilogy or a film franchise.
Yeah.
Okay? Because, first off, does everything need to be mined from the originals? You know, do you have to look back and find out what Slimer's history was? You don't. You like Slimer as he is. You don't need to find out what he looked like as a human. It reminds me of what Red Letter Media pointed out about the Jedi training in Revenge of the Sith, because in A New Hope, Luke is training with that thing, and it's like Obi-Wan just put it together at the last minute. He's got that thing shooting lasers at him. He's got the face shield on it. But then in
Revenge of the Sith, there's like dozens of them because the kids are training with those.
Yeah.
And blocking them easily.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, wait a minute, didn't Obi-Wan just come up with that on the cuff? Like, wasn't that just something he came up with stuff he found laying around in the Millennium Falcon? He had a Jedi training kit, like, with him? Is that what it was? Like, I mean, how do you approach that? It's stupid because they did it in the prequels. You're having nostalgia about something that hasn't happened yet in the universe.
Yeah.
And when you include Slimer,
who up to this point
is not Slimer.
Yeah, he was like he wasn't even really a villain in the first movie. He was just an annoyance. He was a pest. And in the second one, he kind of had a heroic turn because he takes Louis Tully to the scene where the Ghostbusters are fighting Vigo. But that's it.
I'm referencing Star Wars too much, but Slimer's the Boba Fett of Ghostbusters. He has no backstory, but people like him.
Yeah, that's true.
And when you start to make a backstory, people won't like him anymore. I don't like Boba Fett anymore because I know his backstory. And it's stupid. They don't realize it's the mystery that made that character interesting. Hey,
that's true.
You want to know about that character, but you don't.
Yeah.
Because you want to fill it in. That's what you really want to do. You want to fill in the backstory. Once they fill it in for you, and it's worse than what you could have come up with, it's disappointing. So
I think it would be a cool throwaway scene, like you know how Marvel does one-shots and puts them on their Blu-rays to kind of further tie the universe together. I think that'd be cool, like Ghostbusters one-shot. It's not a bad idea.
The only thing I like about this tweet is it shows that Max Landis could make a good Ghostbusters movie. But I don't know if he should do this particular thing.
Yeah.
He's obviously a good idea guy.
Well, what would your idea be for a third Ghostbusters movie?
Not doing it.
I'm in the opposite camp. I still want one.
I'm just scared, and the reason I'm scared is because we lost Egon.
Yeah.
And how they handle that could be really tasteless. Mm-hmm. And it could hurt the whole series.
Yeah.
So it makes me nervous. It doesn't mean there isn't somebody out there that could do a good story, because there's always somebody out there with a better story than the one they're doing.
Yeah.
But at this point, I think it's just all rumors. I mean, how long have they been trying to get Ghostbusters 3 going? It's ridiculous.
Aykroyd's been trying for the past 3 years.
It's the definition of development hell. Yeah. It's like they're stuck in that ghost box thing.
Ironically, the original script was to have the Ghostbusters go to hell, so...
Okay, well, I'm
you
glad
didn't know
they're
that?
not doing that, no.
Oh, yeah, that was Dan Aykroyd and I think Harold Ramis' idea for a sequel. Gate to Hell opens in New York, and they end up
That sounds more like Dan
Probably.
than Harold.
Probably.
Harold was a really good director and a good storyteller. Dan is a little off the wall.
Yeah.
All right, so that I'm going to close it with that.
Okay.
That's another thing. I mean, that we might not ever talk about that again. And the last thing, because I really want to get into Jaws.
Yes.
No, I don't. Nobody wants to get into Jaws.
Chomp.
The last thing is, did you see the Shredder pic that popped up online?
I did.
What? Okay, before I say anything, what do you think? Tell me. Be honest. Be honest. Don't give me that optimistic crap.
I thought it looked cool, but it's enormous. Is it a robot suit? Now I know why the turtles are all 7 feet tall, because the Shredder's got to be at least 8 feet tall, and he's like Shredder Scissorhands. At first glance, I was like, that's cool, but I have to see it in action.
At first glance, I thought anybody who said, "Oh, Michael Bay's just a producer, just needs to eat crow now," okay? Because either number one, you don't understand what a producer really does on a film, or number two, you thought he didn't have very much input and he did.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? A producer is basically a director who can sleep until 9 a.m. That's basically it. I mean, they aren't there at scene to scene, but they have incredible control over the story and the development of a movie.
The film is the director's vision, but the producer gets to make a lot of the calls. Like, I want this in the movie, I want this in the movie.
Yeah, and since this guy is a nobody, I forgot what his name is, Liebson or something?
Jonathan Liebsman.
Here, okay, the Shredder pick, it's just too much. I mean, it's just too much. It's just Michael Bay. That's the most Michael Bay Shredder suit I've ever seen. How does he get anywhere? How did he drive anywhere in that suit? I mean, what does he do productively in that suit?
I have no idea. Like I said, I have to see it in action.
I'm not going to see it in action. I've already decided. It's just everything.
I'm not excited for it, but I'm not writing it off just yet.
I'm writing it off.
I know you are.
I'm officially writing it off. That pick, I'm so done with this movie now. It's just too much. It's over-designed, and Michael Bay loves stuff that's over-designed. That's the first thing I thought when I saw Grimlock. It's over-designed. Grimlock doesn't need every bone that a dinosaur has. He doesn't need little tattoos and stuff like that.
His tattoos?
Yes.
Really?
Go look at the standing thing in the theater. I walked over to it and I'm like, look at this monster. He has little tattoos in the Transformer language. What is their language?
Cybertronian.
Yeah, Cybertronian tattoos on his bones. Why? It's just stop it. You don't need... Just because you come up with something doesn't mean you have to throw it in there. It's nice that you have ideas, Michael. Stop it, though. Pull it back. This movie's gonna suck. Oh my gosh. Seriously, how does he get in a car? Or, I mean, did he walk?
He doesn't have to get in a car. He probably punches through walls.
No, he doesn't. It's William Fichtner doesn't punch through walls.
It's probably like an exosuit with a samurai suit.
I already got hung up on the fact that it's a white guy.
Oh my god, alright.
Now it's a white guy in a ridiculous suit. It's just too much. I mean...
What if he's not the Shredder? What if he's like the Mandarin of Shredders?
No, it's a white guy.
I know.
And he eats sushi. He has samurai swords on his wall, and he watches Japanese bukkake porn. He has
tentacle
Japanese
hentai.
Yes, he's just into it. He watches anime. He's that guy. That's Shredder now. That's your Shredder.
Okay.
All right, so Jaws.
It is as if God created the devil and gave him jaws.
Let's talk about something good.
Happy birthday, Jaws.
Oh, happy birthday to arguably the best movie ever made.
One of the best. Definitely my favorite movie of all time. It's the one I've seen the most. I can quote it.
I
was quoting it in the car when we were listening to the soundtrack.
I know, we were listening to the soundtrack. You're so pumped. Like you really need to. I read your review and I loved it. And the first thing I thought was, it's a great review, but it's such a safe pick because it's something that everybody's seen. But you can't... as I sat back, I'm like, well, how can you criticize him for it, though? Because it is one of the best movies ever made. No one's going to argue with you about that.
Originally, it was a safe pick, but it really is my favorite movie.
It's amazing. It's an amazing film.
Yeah.
It's better than anything Spielberg has ever done and will ever do.
Yeah.
It's his crowning achievement, and even though it was a nightmare for him, I think it's going to go down as the moment when he was at his best. But I'm jumping ahead a little bit there. Why don't you say what you're going to say about it? Because I have backstory that I'm bringing in.
I don't have a special story about when I first saw it or anything. I don't even remember when I first saw the movie.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up, I was into dinosaurs and sharks, so anything with a dinosaur or shark was awesome. So Jaws, I was attached to that movie.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, what do you say that hasn't been said already? Have you ever read the book?
I read the making of book. I have not read Benchley's novel.
Benchley's?
I've read every other novel by him, but
Have
Jaws. Yeah, I don't want to... I couldn't do it. Actually, I did try it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it because it was so different from the film, and I thought the film was so superior.
Way different. The film is just an adventure story, which we discussed, about people facing their fears. The book is completely different. The shark is viewed as like a punishment from God almost by the townsfolk. And the reason the mayor wants to keep the beaches open, in the movie, is just to save the town, because tourist dollars are what make Amity Island run.
Yeah.
In the book, it's because the mafia is forcing the mayor to keep the beaches open and sell housing and apartment buildings and such.
Which,
And they were going to keep that in the movie originally, but they were like, that's too many plot lines.
It is, and it's also...
It's kind of dark.
In a book, you need too many plot lines because you're filling out 300, 400, 500 pages.
Yeah.
I actually like Benchley's writing, but you need something short and sweet for a film, something everybody can understand, and something everybody can relate to, and everybody can relate to money troubles.
Yeah.
So there's no problem changing that. I know Benchley fought him a lot, Spielberg, and I before I jump ahead even more, I think a lot of the trouble he ran into was because he was 26 years old when he made this movie.
Yeah.
That's astounding.
Yeah. And it was a second film.
I mean, most 26-year-olds are like they don't even have their crap together at all.
Yeah.
Like they're living in an apartment and they have an addiction. Like, and he was off, even at the time, he was off doing this amazing film under the most extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it.
Go ahead.
In a short period of time, I watched Jaws, Die Hard, Predator, First Blood, Indiana Jones 1 and 2, and then my parents took me to see Last Crusade in the theater.
My favorite one.
And, I mean, when you see, we're talking in like maybe a 6-month span, I saw all those.
You saw the greatest films of the decade.
And instantly, film was this magical thing, because I saw the best of the best. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It all started with Jaws, though. I actually saw Jaws a year before the rest of those. Yeah, at the tender age of 7.
Yeah, you told me the first movie you ever saw was The Howling. I'm like, best parents ever.
Yeah, I was only a 1-year-old, so I couldn't comprehend.
Oh, okay, but still.
The first movie I remember seeing, ironically, was Ghostbusters, which I was 4. I was 84 when that came out, so I was 4.
I believe so.
Yeah, I was 4.
So you had an awesome cinematic childhood.
I did.
I'm kind of jealous now you're telling me all this.
But yeah, the film that started everything for me was Jaws. And I can tell you, bar none, I've seen this movie over 100 times. Just from when I was a kid. It was the summer of '87. I watched Jaws until the VHS tape broke. Because what I would do is I would stop it right at Hooper Drives the Boat, Chief. I would count it. I knew how long it took to get to that point in the movie. Because I wanted to skip all the stuff in the beginning.
Yeah.
All the stuff in the beginning is great, especially when you're an adult and you understand what's going on.
But you wanted to get to the shark.
I wanted to get to the shark because I was 7. And I was so sad when it broke. And what I actually did, my parents were not sad because I was watching it every day that summer.
Did you go in the water afterwards?
I didn't live that close to the water.
Oh, okay.
For our listeners, I grew up in Florida. I didn't live that close to the water. I would have gone in the water. It didn't bother me. I mean, I did go in the water. I did that all the time. Yeah. What I did, though, once the tape broke and I couldn't watch it, because this is back when, stuff was hard to get a hold of. Yeah. If it wasn't on TV, you weren't watching it. When I went downstairs under my house, we had a house on stilts, and I would go around back, and I set up my dad's ladder, and because that was going to be the crow's nest, and I put a chair so I could have Quint's chair, and I just went through the motions, and I acted out the movie every day. My parents would go, like, they saw me outside doing this, like, because I saw the film in my head. Yeah. I had watched it so many times, I needed to see it again, even if it was just in my head. So I kept doing this every day. Like, it was, it was neurotic, insane behavior. So my parents broke down and they bought it again, and I kept watching it, and I just was totally addicted to this movie. And still am. I mean, I watched it 4 times this week, gearing up for I kept going to watch other shark movies, and I couldn't do it. I'm like, no, I know the one I want to watch. I kept going back to it. It's so addictive to watch this movie for me.
I wish I could quit you.
And I got to thinking about it, and I was like, there have been more financially successful films. There have been arguably more artistic films, more exciting films. I don't think what Jaws, its benchmark, I don't think there is another movie in cinematic history that casts a longer shadow than Jaws. It changed everything. How film was marketed, produced, even how you distribute it. Because it was the first movie that did these multiple openings across the country. The way people get excited about movies, it changed everything. People wanted more Jaws. That's why all these spin-offs that we're going to talk about came along.
Yes.
And millions of sharks died after that.
A while back I was talking to Greg about the movie, our friend Greg, and he said Peter Benchley, he was happy with the success of the book and the film, but he always felt horribly guilty.
Oh yeah, he became a crusader late in his life for shark conservation.
But he felt horrible because people were killing sharks by the thousands. I mean, some of them mostly sports fishing.
You know what? Who else that happened to was the guy who did Flipper, because now there's this industry killing dolphins. What? Yeah. Well,
besides the tuna industry,
they try to capture. When you go to if you go to like a SeaWorld or any kind of ocean place around the world, you're going to see a dolphin that looks like Flipper, but bald-nosed dolphins don't usually look like that. That's kind of a rare look for them, the gray thing. Usually they're kind of spotted and not really pretty, but I mean, well, they're still majestic. They're dolphins. But so what they do, they will trap them all, like in Japan, they'll trap them all in a harbor, kill the ones that don't look like Flipper, and then sell the Flipper ones. And then they take the dolphin meat and sell it as whale meat. And there's like thousands upon thousands of dolphins dying. And the guy who did Flipper, like, is so, like, suicidally, like, I can't believe this has happened. Like, he's a crusader, too.
Yeah.
So it's the same, I would assume it's the same thing with Benchley, although sharks aren't as cuddly and cute as dolphins. But, I mean, yeah, I mean, you don't want any kind of entire species eradicated because you misportrayed them.
Wow. I didn't know
so
that
I totally get how he feels about that.
Mind is blown right now.
Yeah. So I don't think we need to get into the production of this film because you said something in your review, and everybody go to Jordan's site and read his review. It's great, but you sort of portray it like some of the film's great points were a mistake. I don't really agree with that. Now, I want you to say why first. Why do you think? Because I already have my feelings.
I just feel that I didn't feel that the film itself was a total mistake. I felt that its success almost was, because there were so many problems with the production. The shark didn't work.
Okay.
And nobody's ever made a movie like this before. Like, there's never been a film quite like it, and there's been tons since. I just felt that they didn't really know what they had in their hands, and the success of it, the way it took off, was just unexpected and a miracle in itself.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm sure at some point the Spielberg or somebody on production thought, this is going to tank, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Our careers are over.
This is such a beloved film. People want to know everything about it, and they've researched the background of the making of this more than you normally would a movie. But if you pull back the curtain to see the wizard every time, every movie has its headaches. I starred in a horrible independent film myself, and it was a nightmare to do, even though it was this small, short feature, which none of you are ever going to see. If you're listening.
Until I get my hands in a copy. It'll be on YouTube in a week.
Every film has its problems, and if you over-document it, any of them will. And people misremember stuff, too. I mean, when these talking head documentaries about Jaws, it's all the point of view of that particular person. Yeah. Of course Spielberg felt like there was a lot on his shoulders. He was 26 years old, like I stated earlier. And this was his second big feature film. He did Sugarland Express. He did Duel, but that was a TV movie that got adapted to film. Yeah. So this is really his second theatrical intended movie. He got hired on a whim. There were a couple other directors, which I can't remember their names, but that were being lined up. They're all one-feature nobodies. Yeah. I mean, nobody really wanted to tackle this project. This movie almost single-handedly saved Fox. There was so much on his shoulders.
Of course. Fox? It's Universal.
Oh, you're Universal. You're right. Okay. Universal.
Universal. I was like, wait, what happened?
Wait, no. Zanuck, though, wasn't he? He was Fox's son.
Oh, was he?
Zanuck Sr., didn't he do Fox? Maybe we should have researched that before I said it.
We should have.
Why don't you look that up while I keep
talking?
Keep
going, I'm looking.
Well, but what I'm saying is, from the point of view of any individual person, of course this was a difficult shoot. This shoot went on 3 times longer than any other shoot leading up to it. There's been longer movies since, because people do back-to-back trilogies now. Yeah. But no principal photography shoot had been this long, and this one was like 159 days or something like that. And that's how Spielberg started his tradition of not being at the final shot, because he heard that they were going to throw him in the water.
Yeah.
So he wasn't there. He didn't want to get thrown in the water, and now he does it every time out of superstition. But the reason I doubt I'm
right. He was born in L.A. to actress Virginia Fox and Daryl Zanuck, then head of 20th Century Fox.
Okay, but he ended up producing at Universal somehow? I do know that The Sting and Sound of Music pretty much brought Fox back from the grave. But, I mean, Zanuck was a brilliant producer. I mean, he did The Sting, Jaws, and...
Well, he also produced Sugarland Express, so that's how Spielberg probably got the job.
Yeah. Oh, that is how he got the job. Yeah. And when there was a point, I heard him get interviewed once, there was a point where he heard Spielberg was going to quit, and he was coming over to the studio to quit. And Zanuck panicked. He's like, I need this kid, you know. Mm-hmm. He trusted him, and he knew, he had a lot of faith in him, even when other people didn't. And he said, quick. And they decorated everything they could in Jaws. And everybody put on Jaws shirts and stuff.
I think I've seen pictures of that, actually.
And Spielberg came over and, couldn't do it because he saw, how much they had invested in it. And he's like, gosh, I can't quit these guys. So then he left without saying anything. And Zanuck's like, wow, I really dodged a bullet there, And he did. I mean, the reason I have doubts that this film was a mistake is because when you watch the final product, everything is lights out. Everything. The cinematography, the acting, the script, the directing, obviously,
the editing.
And the editing, and probably most importantly, the music is the most recognizable soundtrack in history. You know what? It's so recognizable that you can't do a soundtrack like it without someone thinking, oh, they're ripping off Jaws. Like someone who doesn't even understand music knows that soundtrack. So, before I get into the soundtrack, I just don't think it was an accident. There's just too much that's perfect. And, well, maybe I will get into music. I mean, have you ever watched a scene of this movie without the music?
No.
I saw a special on Boston Pops, because John Williams used to be the conductor of the Boston Pops. And they had some people from Jaws come out. And they had Richard Dreyfuss come out. And he basically said all the nightmare of making the movie. And he thought it was going to be a flop. And he said that when he went to watch it, the soundtrack was so good he forgot he was in the movie. And to prove it, they took a scene of Jaws and they played it. They projected on the screen for the audience with no music at all. And it was the first barrel chase.
Oh, okay.
And it's awkward.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre to watch. Like, all the excitement of the scene is just sucked out of it like a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's just these three fishermen chasing a shark that doesn't look very good, you know? Like, it changes the movie so much. And then, of course, because it's Boston Pops, they do the scene again with the live orchestra, and you're just... It's fixed. It's fixed, just like that. It's like, oh, that's it. Yeah. You know, you're like right back into it. That's how good it is. And when you listen to the soundtrack of this movie without, this is the interesting part to me. When I personally listen to it without the film, it's inseparable. The imagery in my head, I can't listen to it without thinking of the movie. I think they're so married. The first film to this soundtrack, that it's the best combo ever, without a doubt in my mind. Because there's plenty of soundtracks you can listen to without watching the movie and like them. Yeah. I've got quite a few that I own that I don't even like the movie, but I like the soundtrack. And vice versa.
Yeah. No, you're saying though, you hear the music and instantly a scene from the movie jumps in your head.
And I know how deep, and this goes back to the how great the production is. There's a point, and I hope you can maybe edit the sound in while I'm doing this. But there's a point where Roy Scheider's walking out on the boardwalk, and you hear this song.
Yeah.
That's an old Christian hymnal called Coming Again, and the lyrics are, coming again, coming again.
You think that was on purpose?
Yeah, I do think that was on purpose, because the lyrics like directly sound like he's coming again, you know, so... Like, it's this brilliant little tidbit that I just found a couple weeks ago, and I've seen this movie 100 times. And it just blew me away. I was like, wait a minute, I know that. That's how deep the genius of this film is for me. That you can watch it multiple times and still get stuff out of it. When I watched it as an adult, I was astonished by the class warfare between Quint and Hooper. It's amazing. Yeah. They're just great scenes about how people feel about each other. And, well,
it's great. All three characters are from all different walks of life.
They are.
Cooper is from the super rich.
He's super rich.
And then, I guess Brody's right there in the middle.
Class.
He's middle class, and Quint's further down the ladder. Making
Quint's
a living.
Salt of the earth, working class hero, legend in his own mind, even though he doesn't have money, you know. They all have their faults. None of them are triumphed over one or the other. And the brilliance of this film, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because when we get to the later films and the spin-offs and the inspiration and stuff, the brilliance of this film compared to others is that it has a... I think I'm pronouncing this right, diegesis of the film. Like the underlying story, the underlying propel is dealing with your fears.
Yes.
The whole movie is about dealing with your fears. Brody's afraid of the water. Hooper's afraid of finally being the scientist that he spent all the money to be. I mean, every scene that he's in, you can tell this is the first time I've done this. Yeah. Like when he's looking at the remains of the first attack.
Yeah.
The left arm, head, shoulders, sternum, and portions of the rib cage are intact. Do not smoke in here, thank you very much. Well, this is not a boat accident. It wasn't any propeller. It wasn't any coral reef. And it wasn't Jack the Ripper. It was a shark.
when he finds the shark tooth.
And then the disembodied head scares him and he drops it.
Even when he's getting in the cage, he's nervous.
Yeah.
He's never, you can tell every time, he has the knowledge, but he's never done this before.
He's never been in the field and tested the knowledge.
He's really the embodiment of Spielberg in the film. He's the young kid who, I've never done this before. There's a few shots that you can tell Spielberg worked in that showed his struggle with making it. Like there's a part where he's trying to get Brody to go out on the end. Go on the end of the pulpit. Just go out there. Just go out there and if I need it for scales, foreground my head,
Beyond the edge of the barrels. Go to the end of the barrels. Further out. What? Further out. Why? Go further out. What for? Will you go to the end of the pulpit, please? What? Will you please go to the end of the pulpit? What for? I need to have something in the foreground to give it some scale. Foreground my ass.
That whole scene is the kind of stuff that Spielberg went through filming it. He's like, I'm gonna come up with something here and remind everybody what I went through to do this. I'm this young kid that nobody wants to do what he says. And finally, Quint's fear, which isn't revealed until the Indianapolis speech, is sharks.
Yeah.
The irony, how the way he dies and everything, his fear is
that's
sharks.
how he makes a living too. He kills sharks.
It's been his thing.
Yeah.
That he went through this traumatic thing as a young man, and his whole life he's been killing these things because he hates them. They're just his fear. He just wants to dominate them. And finally, he meets one, a 25-footer with 3 tons on him, that wants to eat him. And it's just this amazing thing where everybody faces their fears in the movie. And these 3 principal characters that have to go out and individually, through this just fish in the water, have to face their fears. It's brilliant.
It is.
And none of that brilliance is in any of the sequels.
No, there's a glimmer in the first sequel. A very
We'll get into that a little bit. I agree with you to a point.
Yeah.
And I'll say what I say about that when we're done with the first one. When we decide we're done with it. You want to do a little trivia? Do you have any trivia ready for this?
Why don't you go first?
What? I've been talking and talking. Don't you have like something that you came up with? You don't.
I do have a funny Jaws-related story, and this is why you should be careful what you take as fact on the Internet Movie Database.
Yeah.
Years ago, I started a web magazine called Rogue Cinema with a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
And we focused on independent movies. And then one day, the guy that started the site, basically maintained it and did most of the work, contacted me and said, John Voight's agent called me. He wants to do an interview. I was like, oh my god, the John Voight? He's like, yeah, he's doing some movie called The Legend of Simon Conjurer, which never got released as far as I know.
Yeah.
So we jumped on it. One of the other guys that wrote for the magazine worked at a radio station. His name is Brian Morton, and the guy that ran the site still runs it is Dwayne Martin.
Okay.
So Dwayne set things up, and then Brian and I got on the phone on a 3-way call with John Voight, and it was really cool. At the very end, after we're talking about this movie and, Transformers, because John Voight was in that as the Secretary of Defense, I found one tidbit on IMDb that I thought was really cool. It said that John Voight was offered the role of Hooper and turned it down.
He was, yeah.
Now listen to this. We were about to hang up. I'm like, can I ask you one more question? He's like, absolutely. I was like, all right, Mr. Voight, I read on here that you were offered the role of Matt Hooper for Jaws and you turned it down. I'm like, is that true? And no, it is not true. Straight from the horse's mouth, John Voight did not.
Really? It's even on Wikipedia.
I talked to the man on the phone. I have an audio recording somewhere. He did not turn down the role in Jaws. He said he was never offered it.
So they may have just been considering him and then went to...
Possibly. He might have been considered for the role, but they passed over him. But he was never directly offered the role and then said, no, I'm not interested. At least according to John Voight.
I don't think he would lie about that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people who were associated with this have either said, yeah, I wish I would have done that, or no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I know there the 2 actors, Sterling Hayden and for Quint, Sterling Hayden and oh god, I shouldn't forget this guy's name. Oh, he's awesome. Big Red One.
I know what you're going for. Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
Lee Marvin.
Lee Marvin.
Lee Marvin
was Spielberg's first choice,
yeah.
And would have been amazing.
Yeah, he would have.
But he wouldn't have added that.
He would have been more soldierly.
Yeah, he would have came as Lee Marvin.
Yeah.
Ironically, as much as Robert Shaw didn't want to do it, he was told to do it by his wife, who died before Jaws premiered. But she told him to do 007 From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to do that, but she told him to do it, and it ended up really helping his career. So
yeah.
He's like, well, she was right once, I'll do it again. I think it's his best role.
It is. That's the role everybody remembers him for.
But it's also his best. You can be remembered for something that you've not been the best in. But as much as we know the production was troubled, what's on screen with him is amazing and professional. Mm-hmm. And it was weird for me to see him talk in his native accent.
Right? Because you expect him to, like, you know...
Yeah, I thought he was going to be Quint. When you hear him get interviewed, you're like, oh my goodness, this guy is an amazing actor. Or was. So, yeah, there's plenty of people that have passed on, and without probably even knowing about it. What I was going to say, the trivia that I came up with, is where's Spielberg's cameo, do you know?
Oh, he's, I do know. I do. He's on the radio.
Yep.
He calls in and says, I have Martin Brody's wife here.
Yeah, Amity White Station Orca.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was another thing that I picked up on my own, actually, and then I looked it up.
Mm-hmm. And Peter
I let a movie talk to me before I go and find things about it. So...
also, Peter Benchley has a cameo in the movie.
Yeah, he's the reporter.
Yeah.
Amity Island has long been known for its clean air, clear water, and beautiful white sand beaches. But in recent days, a cloud has appeared on the horizon of this beautiful resort community. A cloud in the shape of a killer shark.
I'm glad you brought that up, because even though there's no scenes that stick out as bad in this movie.
What's amazing is a lot of the cast members were just the locals.
Yeah, there's some bad acting, like the kid, Mom, I got by vampire. And Benchley, who's an author, but I mean, reporters really...
Yeah.
Even real life reporters.
He's a throwaway character, just, you know.
It doesn't matter. I can watch the movie scene for scene.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go to the bathroom when it's on. It's just so great.
And if it's on TV, I'll stop what I'm doing and watch it.
So, yeah, we love it. I mean, what can you say about it at this point?
And I love all the little nuances it has. Like, one of my other favorite small scenes is when Brody's yelling at his kids to get out of the boat they just bought him. It was tied up to the dock. And his wife's saying...
Yes.
You know, leave him alone, he's not in the ocean. And then he's like, yeah, you're right. And then she opens the shark book he was reading and sees a picture of a great white biting into the hull of, like, a rowboat. And she just slams it shut and starts yelling, like, get out of the water!
Michael! Did you hear your father? Out of the water now! Now!
And that's one of those things that you didn't really... Like, it's funny. You have to see Spielberg's whole catalog to realize how much input he had in the film. And he had a ton of input. Yeah. Those little moments like that are so Spielbergian. I think I just made a word.
Nope, that's been around for a while.
Okay, has it? Okay.
Yeah. You can't trademark it, I'm sorry.
He'd get it back somehow. Not that he needs the money.
They say it on Animaniacs all the time.
Oh, they do? Oh, that's very old then.
Yep.
So... What I was going to say, you offered a personal story. I actually have two, but they're not as good as that one. My first one that relates to Jaws. Have you been to Universal Studios in Florida?
I haven't.
They have an Amityville where you can walk around.
Well, Amity Island.
Amity Island, but they call it Amityville.
Okay.
I think they do. I don't know, whatever. But you're walking around out there, and it's pretty neat. It looks like Amity to a point.
It's gone now, though, isn't it?
I don't think so.
They closed the Jaws ride. They moved it to Japan.
Oh, did they?
They did.
Well, then nobody's going to... Well, then this is a good story, because no one's going to experience what I experienced.
Tell your tale.
Well, what they do is I've been on the ride a couple times before. All they do is they take you... You're on a tour boat, and they say, this is where the shark attacks were, blah, blah. They try to make it seem like you're on Amity.
Yeah.
And then,
do they do the accent?
No. And then the shark shows up. But I went on one where the kid doing the tour ride really put his heart into it. And, like... I had a blast just because he was into it. Because I knew that, I mean, everybody knows you're just on a ride.
Yeah.
But he, like, I mean, the shark, he found a gun. Well, actually, first thing you do, you hear a report, like, you hear somebody go, oh, over the radio, and he's like, oh, that guy sounded like he was watching an episode of Pokemon, you know? And then he grabbed a gun, and
then you come around the corner, and there's, like, a sinking boat, right?
Well, he shoots the gun at the shark once, and... He turned to us and goes, ha, this gun isn't shooting blanks. Like, he kept doing stuff like that. That was hilarious. And I was like, this guy, like, made the ride for me. Because, like, he was enthusiastic about it. Yeah. And to an extent, that's what it's like watching a bad movie. You know you're on a ride, but when somebody puts their heart into it and makes it fun for you, you get invested. Yeah. And the other thing I want to throw in is just, like, and it relates to music, is how, remember when we put My Tin Ceiling up and we put Building the Cage on from the soundtrack? Because we wanted to put something together. We wanted to build something while the Building the Cage song was on.
That was the most appropriate song available.
You can build anything when you're listening to that.
Yep.
That's like the most let's get together as a team and build something song ever. So, yeah, let's close that there, because... I mean, how much more can you say about the movie that everybody loves and sees?
No, I love this movie.
Alright, so okay, let's get into the sequels.
Okay.
In all the vast and unknown depths of the ocean, how could there have been only one? Now, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. The legend continues.
Say what you're going to say about Jaws 2.
I like Jaws 2.
No, but what you said, like, analytically about it.
Analytically?
Yeah.
That it's a slasher film?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Before slasher films became popular.
Yeah. So Jaws 2 came out in 78.
78, okay.
Halloween was 78.
Oh, so they both came out
So
the
they
same
came
year.
out the same year. Okay.
All right.
So Jaws 2 was 78. Halloween came out in 78.
Yeah.
And then 1980 is when Friday the 13th came out, which we discussed quite a bit last week.
But like you're saying, there are a lot of elements.
A lot of the elements are in there for a slasher film. You have the point of view shots, which, they're in every Jaws movie. But he stalks his victims in this movie. It's not like a shark eating people for food. It's like a malevolent creature. There's one scene where he kills this kid. He knocks him out of a boat while the kid's trying to make out with his girlfriend. And then the shark drags him and swims as fast as it can towards the ship and smacks the kid's face off the front of it.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to climb back out, begging for help, and then gets yanked down and pulls a piece of the boat with him.
Yeah, it's really over the top.
Yeah, it was over the top. Plus it kills a killer whale and leaves it behind.
This shark was bigger too, wasn't it?
It was slightly bigger. Like, I think the last one was 25.
Yeah.
They never discussed its size, but they say it's a shark of considerable size. But then you bring in, like, the expert, where they find the dead orca, which is a little joke, because an orca's killed in this movie, and then when Dino De Laurentiis made Orca, one of the opening scenes is a great white's about to attack somebody that fell off a boat, and then an orca comes up and, like, bites the shark in half. Yeah, I mean, everything's there for a slasher
We'll get
film.
into Orca later.
Yes. But, I mean, it stalks a group of kids, a bunch of horny teenagers. They're out on a bunch of boats, disobeying their parents.
Yeah.
I mean, it does eat a few of them, but mainly it just terrorizes them. It, like, knocks them into the water, it drags their boats around, drags a helicopter down under the water. And the crowning thing is that it gets its face, like, burnt off earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, you could almost believe it'd have a Phantom of the Opera mask later in the flick.
Or, it's this... they wanted it to be this unstoppable force.
Yeah.
My problem with the film is that it has Jaws in the title. I think this is probably one of the best shark movies. Not the best. We all know what the best is. But in an odd way, having it being associated with Jaws, I think, kind of takes away from it.
Well, I mean,
if it had been a standalone rip-off movie,
yeah.
I think it would have gone down as one of the best. As it stands, it's just what led in a long downward spiral of what Jaws could have been.
Well, there's two other things I like about it.
Okay.
I know where you're coming from, and you're right. It's not as good as the original, but there's a lot.
Which isn't a fair criticism, I should say,
yeah.
because nothing is as good as the original.
That's true. But there's earlier in the movie, Brody walks out of his house, and one of the barrels from the first movie is sitting on the front doorstep, and it's got flowers growing in it. I thought that was a cool touch.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of little things like that. Hendrix, who is a throwaway character in the first one, the deputy,
yeah, he became more of a...
He becomes more of a main character in this one.
Yeah.
And once again, Brody has to face his fear of going out in the water, but this time he doesn't have anyone to back him up. He's by himself. He has no idea what he's doing. He's trying to pilot this boat by himself. And,
yeah.
And he's like crazy in this movie, because he believes so firmly that there's another shark, and everybody else is saying, no, you're wrong, you're insane. He loses his job over it. He shoots up a public beach. I have to
kind of reiterate what I already said, but to the point that I think there were nice touches, and you're right, there were nice touches, but it lost a lot of the humanity that was in the first one.
That's true. Well, the first
Those
one was
little moments that only Spielberg did, like you said about the book and everything.
Yeah.
There isn't really any of that. It's not as artistic. This movie, really what it did is cashed in on the fear of sharks that the first movie propagated. And that's why the shark is so insanely unstoppable. Because that's how people looked at them after that. It was already impossible what the shark was doing in the first movie, but you wanted to believe it. This time around, it's like, it's harder to believe, just like the Brodies are involved every time, it's harder to believe that there would be a shark this insane and this unstoppable every time.
Yeah.
The first time, it was almost like, it felt like, okay, they have found this fluke, this shark that's really intelligent and it's just this monster that wants to eat everything.
Yeah.
You can kind of believe, just like you have a crazy dog in the neighborhood, that there would be one shark that would do this. 2, 3, 4, I mean, well, they add more to it.
There's even a scene in the movie where Brody's talking to an expert, and he's like, you don't think if one shark's destroyed, that another could come along, and the woman's like, Mr. Brody, sharks don't think things personally.
That's part of it, though. I mean, they knew what the amount of disbelief they would have to suspend, and it's all because it's part of the Jaws franchise, and they try to re-include elements that they shouldn't have. I am okay with it.
Yeah.
I wish the series would have ended there.
Definitely. That was not the case.
I said it to you before. Jaws is a crow's nest above every other shark movie.
Yeah.
And it's above a lot of even non-shark movies. I mean, thousands, hundreds, millions of them. I don't know how many movies have been made. It's top 5. I mean, you go around, everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
You can't say that about Jaws 2. I like that you went back and you'll visit and you give it a benefit of a doubt. I'm different than you. I can just... I marry a movie that I love, okay? And I don't flirt with other movies once I love a movie. That movie is mine. This movie is now my wife. Do you, Steve, take Jaws to be your lawfully wedded movie? I do.
One more thing about it.
Okay, go ahead,
we can move on. It's a more self-contained story because the first one was about 3 men saving a small town and facing their fears.
Yeah.
Taking on a force of nature. The second one is Brody's story about him basically having PTSD.
Yeah.
Because everybody thinks he's nuts, and the thing is, he's right, everybody else is wrong. My only gripe with the movie is he doesn't, get to come back to town and, get a hero's welcome or anything.
Well, they don't know what happened out there yet.
I know. But, I mean, just one scene of, him getting the kids back and, and getting an apology and getting his job back. Because I love him.
Here's the thing. Well, yeah, Martin Brody's a great character, but the I'm right and you're wrong thing he did in the first one, too. It's just, it was more personified in the mayor.
And it didn't affect the town so much this time.
You kind of would think that they would believe him after the events of the first film.
They didn't want to believe. Because
they didn't want to, but, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, people are going to watch this movie because you already have an instilled fear of sharks now. So you would believe what this man said.
Yeah.
So you kind of lose something there. I think they should have believed him. It wouldn't have changed the movie very much.
True.
It's not like they had a huge force to rely on. He would still had to go looking for the kids.
Yeah.
How are you going to reshoot a movie made in 1978? So it is what it is.
I like it more than you do.
I think it could have been better, but it's not a bad movie. I'm not downing it. I just think it could have been better because the first one's so great. And to tie it back to what we said about Ghostbusters, I think what made it good was that there's no nostalgia factor. They just tried to make another shark movie.
Yeah.
If you waited 10 years to make that and then tried to make it about, it would have been worse.
Yeah.
You can't. Once you start having nostalgia, it's the outside world affecting your story. You can't do that. It has to have its own life to be good.
Yeah.
Jaws 3.
Jaws 3D. The third dimension is terror.
We just finished that one.
We watched that tonight. I haven't seen it in a long time.
It's rough.
I had fonder memories of it than I think I should have.
Yeah.
And that's because I watched it on VHS and I couldn't see everything. Once you have it in all its horrible
widescreen,
whatever it is.
And it was a lousy transfer for a DVD, too.
It was a lousy transfer, but looking at it now, I mean, as a kid, you don't realize what shots were supposed to be 3D. I didn't watch it in 3D, obviously, on VHS. You don't realize what shots were supposed to be 3D. This is very poorly directed, poorly acted, poorly written. Everyone associated with the movie moved on with their lives.
Yeah.
It's surprising some of the names that were attached to this hunk of garbage.
You mean this commercial for SeaWorld?
I like what... I forgot his name. There's Gottlieb. Who's the other screenwriter? He's great. He did a bunch of great stuff. He wrote I Am Legend. What's his name? Matheson?
Matheson.
I believe he said... I'm surprised he didn't take his movie off of it, but I believe he said what they went with wasn't really close at all to what he did.
Well, it was a cash-in. 3D was getting big again at the time.
It was. There were better 3D movies.
Yes.
Friday the 13th 3D being, I think, the best of the ones.
Yeah, and also SeaWorld. I don't know why that figured in. I guess that was big back then in the early 80s.
I think somewhere along the line somebody had a theme park idea, and they thought, oh, that'd be great because it would be, localized. You could keep the shark in a space and have to deal with it. But realistically, what they went with was really off the wall and weird.
And the shark's a master hide and seek player too, because
it's a 35-foot shark that fits in caves that I could barely fit in somehow.
Yeah, it fits in.
Serious. I mean, the point of view shots are from somebody who's 6 feet max, holding a camera, and he's swimming out of a cave that a 35-foot shark wouldn't even bother to go in. It's just really slipshod, ham-fisted, everything bad you can say about it. It's kind of a popcorn movie.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it just be named SeaWorld Shark? I don't know.
Shark World.
Well, what Matheson said, they forced him to include the Brody family again, and he said, which was dumb. And it is. It's dumb. It doesn't... The movie's called Jaws, not Brody.
Yeah.
You don't have to...
Well, the shark...
In fact, Martin Brody was the Sigourney Weaver of that movie.
Yeah.
He wasn't supposed to be the hero.
Yeah.
Quint was supposed to be the hero. Every movie leading up to that movie, Quint was the hero. That kind of character, that alpha male, won it. And then he got 8.
And you're like,
no. Who's going to kill this shark now? The guy who's afraid of water? It's like this... You have the loss of hope, and then, you regain it when he wins, but he wasn't the hero. And to make him center after that, and his family center, is ridiculous. It's even harder to believe than sharks growing 10 feet every time you make a movie. It's just... You could have made a different movie. You really could have, you people. And it's so funny that everyone involved had a different thing that they did not want to happen, and yet it went through.
And it happened. Recipe for disaster.
Speaking of which, Jaws 4. Revenge.
Jaws the Revenge.
Man's deepest fear has risen again. Jaws the Revenge. This time, it's personal.
Michael Caine is my favorite thing in the world right now because of everything he said about Jaws the Revenge.
So many people are embarrassed about their involvement in the movie. He's just
handles
whatever.
It with class.
He really
does. He's a classy guy. I love Michael Caine. I'd love to be stuck in an elevator.
I haven't seen Jaws the Revenge, but I've seen the house it built.
Yeah.
Well,
and he also said, he won an Oscar and he had a great vacation and built a house. I mean, that's pretty good for a flop. The movie's horrible.
It is.
And it's directed by a guy who...
Joe Sargent.
Who had a history in television. I remember I used to watch Lassie when I was a kid, and I used to see his name all the time because he did a lot of the Lassie cartoons.
Did he really?
So, this movie is about how Jaws got stuck down in a well. And then got out and was really mad at the Brody family again.
Yeah. Well, that's the weird thing. This movie is... The tagline even is, this time it's personal. And even bigger
Which
Great
makes
White,
fun of itself instantly.
The biggest Great White of all time in cinema. It kills the youngest Brody, who is a police chief in Amity at the start of the film.
Yeah.
And then after the funeral, the mother and the older brother...
Before you go further...
Yes.
That's my favorite part in the movie. Because you have this guy being eaten... ridiculously,
violently devoured
while Christmas carols are being sung in the background, and that's the kind of stuff I like. But this juxtaposition of
this
imagery.
This is how ridiculous the series gets, though.
Yeah.
Because the shark gets bigger and smarter with each movie.
Yeah.
The shark lays a trap.
It should have just been
Sharkogram. It lays a trap for him.
Yeah.
They're like, there's something blocking the channel, and we have nobody else to go get it. He's like, I'll get it. And then you go out, and there's this piece of wood blocking a buoy, and there's teeth marks all over the piece of wood, and then as he's trying to fish it out of the water, the shark leaps out and bites his arm off. Yeah. And then there's Christmas carols being sung in the background.
Yeah, which is beautiful.
He's screaming for help, and it's like,
It's like a Rob Zombie scene. You have this music that doesn't match what you're seeing.
But yeah,
Zombie does that. He'll have like a nice song, and then somebody's getting stabbed in the face.
Yeah. And
it's just, why does it have to be called Jaws? We could laugh at it so hard if it wasn't called Jaws and just enjoy it, but because it's called Jaws, it's just this, you hate it. You hate that it took that name.
And Lorraine Gary is the only actress to return out of all the movies.
No, actually, in that movie, there's a cameo by Mrs. Kidner.
Oh, right, that's right, you said that. She doesn't slap anybody this time, though.
No, she's like, you don't even notice her, but she's But it's irrelevant. Lorraine Gary?
Gary.
I thought she was a great actress in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she did good in this, too.
Yeah.
I thought everybody acted good. It's just like the production values were garbage.
The shark looked horrible.
Shark was the worst shark
and
ever
it
made.
roars when it leaps out of the water.
Just the choices that they made were just so bizarre, and they were so bizarre that the people in the film knew while they were filming it was garbage and didn't put any effort into it.
Except they changed the ending. They made it worse. I thought the original ending was fine. They're zapping the shark. It's leaping out of the water. They stab it with the front of the ship, and then the front of the ship breaks off, and the shark sinks underwater, impaled on it, and it dies. And they all tumble into the water.
Which would have been better than,
But then they reshot it. Terrible miniatures. And the front of the boat hits the shark.
It is
inexplicably explodes.
Yeah, and then somehow it is possible to come out of a shark intact.
Oh, you mean Mario Van Peebles?
Yeah, just have you go, oh look, I got a scratch on my forehead.
No, they write it off as, I guess you don't like dark meat, man. I think the shark just grabbed him and then spit him out. Was that reshot too? I think he died in the original version, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he had to. The shark died. He was inside the shark.
But in the new one, it's like, oh, the shark exploded, but hey, he's fine. He's over here. He's swimming. He's half chewed up, but we're good.
You know, F that movie. Joseph Sargent should have stuck to television. He did good work in television, and that's where he should have stayed.
He probably wanted to go to the Bahamas.
Obviously, Michael Caine did. Alright, so we're done with the Jaws series. Let's get into some of the better films that were inspired.
I did want to ask you really quick.
What?
How do you feel about a Jaws remake?
Oh, yeah, you did mention that. I'm sorry. I'm glad you remembered that. No, that's how I feel about it. And I know you wrote, well, what if they stayed close to the book, but still no. You can't...
The book is totally different.
You can't remake Gone with the Wind. Can't remake Jaws. You can't remake... What else can't you remake that's awesome?
I would say RoboCop, but... Whoops.
Well, obviously they can't. You can't remake something that's done right the first time. Just don't do it. And don't bring out a special edition of it. If it's done right the first time, leave it alone. Stop playing with it. You know, these guys like Lucas and even Spielberg did it with E.T.
Yeah.
It's like a kid playing with his scab.
Yeah.
Quit picking at it. It's fine. It'll grow back. Leave it alone. It was fine as it was. Leave it alone.
That was a good metaphor, by the way. On my opinion of that, they should not remake Spielberg's movie because, like you said, they can't. It's perfect the way it is. They can't recapture that. But if they did a new version based on the book,
it would
I'm
still
okay
be
with
called
that.
Jaws, though, and it would have to be compared to the first one.
It's completely different.
It's setting it up to fail, Jordan.
I'd still watch it. I want it to happen.
Why?
Because I want to see...
You want a realistic shark. That's all you want.
No. Oh, the shark's far from realistic in the book. But what...
it dies in the worst, like...
It dies in the most anticlimactic way ever.
It just slowly dies of poison, doesn't it?
Yes, but it takes out Quint. He does the whole Ahab thing. He puts a harpoon in it, and a rope gets caught in his leg, and he gets pulled overboard.
I'm glad you said Ahab. I forgot to mention that Jaws is the best Moby Dick ever made. Everybody who tries to make Moby Dick gets it wrong. Moby Dick needs to stay a book because it's a beautiful book. Have you read it?
I've read the first line. Call me Ishmael, and then I close the book.
Moby Dick is amazing. Moby Dick might be the best book ever written. If you sit down and read it. Herman Melville, the way he writes, it's like poetry to me. And the whole story is just about everything. It's about everything. The whale's taken to a more metaphoric level. And that's the reason Jaws got it better than any Moby Dick movie. Because every Moby Dick movie focuses on Ahab. You don't focus on Ahab. There are other characters. Spielberg was wise. He focused on other characters. It isn't just about Quint. Could be. You could make a movie just about Quint. It would have been fine. But he made it about everything. And it became awesome. Just like Moby Dick. So it's the best Moby Dick movie ever made. Okay. It's called Jaws. If you try to make Jaws, it's going to be the worst Moby Dick movie ever made. Because it's based off Jaws. Do you see my line of thinking?
No, I see it. I just want to see Matt Hooper bang out Brody's wife.
I don't want to see that.
And then die horribly as a result.
No one wants to see that.
Well, I guess I'm just a sick, twisted bastard. Okay, so we talked about the movie, we talked about the sequels.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of our favorite...
inspired films, which there are some good ones.
There are.
People were thirsty for that dynamic of man versus nature, and it reveals how mankind is.
I was actually trying to think of this last night. I was like, well, Jaws was popular, so they're trying to capitalize on that. But what is it about them that keeps people coming back? And I think it's because we see ourselves as like the apex predator on the planet. Like we rule the planet.
Okay,
in our
I'll give you that. Yeah.
And I think it's just terrifying to think that something could just grab us and swallow us whole, and there's nothing we could do about it.
It reveals our weakness, and that goes back to how Jaws deals with fear.
Yeah.
It's sort of a situation where, and I think we talked about this a little bit with Friday the 13th, where you're like, it's this. What would I do in that situation?
Yeah.
And you always find a character you relate to.
Yeah.
And it's something that's not, it's not political. It's just about how a human will handle that kind of like a high stress.
Yeah. It's a
you're
primal
in danger.
thing.
Yes, it's very primal. The animals are coming to get us kind of scenario. There's something that people fantasize about this. It's like how zombies got really popular.
Yeah.
There are people who want a zombie apocalypse.
They
want it because it would be like a reboot for human society. And I'm not one of them. I know I just sounded like it.
Yeah.
No.
But want to join my militia group?
No. I'm not that person at all. But no, there are people out there like that. And I think it ties into this, that there are people that just want that moment where you're unified with people despite your differences.
Yeah.
You get to see the best of us along with the worst of us, and how we work together. Obviously, we figured something out, because there's 7 billion people in the world, so we figured out how to work together
to some extent,
well enough to make 7 billion of us. I took it really far, but and really out of context. But I think it ties into what you said. It's just a situation, it's a survival situation, and it's exciting because it's something that you can kill, and the problem's done.
Yeah.
Kill the alligator, kill the piranha, kill the orca. Once I kill this thing, my troubles are over.
until another one swims up.
And bites you on the ass.
All right, so what are your best?
Alligator is one of my top ones.
It lives 50 feet beneath the streets. It's 36 feet long. It weighs over 2,000 pounds. And it's about to break out.
That's a great movie.
It is.
You know what's great about that is that it plays with this. It isn't just playing with the themes that we talked about,
But also an urban legend.
it plays with the urban legend.
Yeah.
It's like your mother telling you, "Don't make your face like that; it'll stay that way.
Yeah.
Don't flush that alligator down the toilet because it'll grow 50 feet and eat everybody in the neighborhood."
Yeah.
You know.
That's what I like about the movie is there's a reason the alligator is as big as it is, because they say in the movie it shouldn't be more than like 2 or 3 feet long. Maybe you saw something, maybe you didn't.
Yeah.
But there's an evil company, pharmaceutical company, that's been dumping lab animals down into the sewers filled with steroids and all kinds of nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And the gator
it's
eats
the
it.
company from Plague Dogs. But yeah, keep going.
That's
Are we going to do a Plague Dog show? We've got to do it.
I don't want to be
Keep going.
depressed for an hour and a half.
All right, go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, they dump all these animals, the gator eats them, grows huge, and then Robert Forster ends up investigating why body parts are showing up at the sewer treatment plant.
Great actor, by the way.
Yes, he's awesome. And then he ends up coming face to face with this thing that should not exist.
What I like about Alligator is that it never took the premise too far.
Or too seriously. It has fun with it.
It has fun, but it's not. You never taken out of the movie.
Yeah.
It's fun. You know what a movie that's like that, and I didn't think about it till now, is Mosquito. Do you remember Mosquito? Not Skeeter. That's horrible.
Skeeter's terrible. Mosquito.
Mosquito's kind of fun like that.
I love that movie. I also like how it has Gunnar Hansen in it. He was the original Leatherface. He actually fights the mosquitoes with a chainsaw.
Is he the Vietnam vet?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So Alligator, it's definitely one of my favorites. And I was going to say the alligator's actually the hero of the movie. And I told this to somebody, they looked at me weird. I'm like, no, think about it. It gets flushed down the toilet, and then it's subjected to all these chemicals and stuff in this harsh environment. So it's, sad story for him. But he ends up killing the people that created him towards the end of the movie. He invades a wedding. He devours the groom, which turned out to be the guy making the chemicals.
Yeah.
And then the old guy.
Yeah, I've never looked at it this way.
And then the old guy that's in the limo is
Talk me off.
The old guy that's in the limo that tries to escape the wedding owns the pharmaceutical company and, said, gave him a blank check, like, do whatever you have to do to make this stuff. And the alligator, for no reason...
How did I not notice this?
But it's weird because there's no reason for the gator to attack these people, but it kills the guy that created it, and...
I'm usually the analytical guy, and I missed all this.
So it's technically the anti-hero of the film.
It's great. Very good work on that one.
Oh, thank you.
I commend you.
And then there was the sequel,
no,
which you've never seen.
No, that is Kane Hodder. Didn't you just watch that?
I just watched it the other night. It has a made-for-TV vibe, and the gator effects are really cheap, and the plot's like a rehash.
Well, we both have a soft spot for Kane, though.
We do. He's only in it for 10 minutes, maybe. But
he boosts anything he's in.
Yeah.
I really wish he had more work.
He does. He's in everything. He pops up in cameos everywhere.
Yeah, but he needs to be a household name, I mean.
He doesn't have to. He's got the convention circuit to keep him going.
Okay, whatever. Defend everything.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
I'm the attacker and you're the defender. That's the dynamic that's been established. I don't know why it came along like that, but that's it. I'm the guy who tries to destroy the castle.
I'm Ramon, and you are Robert Forster. I am the alligator.
No.
You're going to try and blow me up at the end of this.
No. I am Jim Brown, and you are the Nazis, and I'm dropping grenades down on you in the basement. That's what it is. All right. Also on your list, Piranha.
Who could have imagined they were there? Who could have predicted they would attack? And now, who would survive? Piranha, they're here.
Piranha's huge on the list. Joe Dante's movie.
Joe Dante's a god.
He is. Yes.
I love Joe Dante, and that's a great movie. There's just so much that's good about it. It winks at
Mm-hmm.
It winks at Jaws. It winks at Ray Harryhausen. It has fun.
Yeah.
It knows. Joe Dante said to himself, "I'm not gonna make Jaws. I'm not gonna have that level of success. Let's have fun." Mm-hmm. And he did it, and it's fun to watch. It's a good, great movie. So
I forgot to mention something else about Alligator.
Go ahead.
It has one truly horrifying scene that scarred me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
There's some kids having a costume party at a house.
Okay.
2 of them are dressed as pirates. They
They
drag the third kid out. We're gonna walk the plank.
I know.
And the mom turns the light on, and the kid peeks under the blindfold.
That is such a creepy.
And then you just see the huge alligator mouth open. And the kid screams, and they shove him in, and it just eats him in the pool.
Yeah. Well, it's so rare for, and that worked in Jaws too. It's so rare for a kid to actually be eaten in a movie.
A lot of kids get eaten in Piranha.
Not that I want it, and I definitely wouldn't want to see it every time.
Yeah.
That would be horrible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go to movies.
Well, when they do that, it's like all bets are off. Anybody could die.
When they do it and it works, I don't like to analyze why it works.
Yeah.
It's a horrible thing, but it worked in that one, and it worked in Jaws.
And in Piranha too, kids in peril again. They're all in that little river, riding their rafts, and then the piranhas start attacking the children.
Yeah. Well, Spielberg did it again with Jurassic Park. I mean, the T-Rex goes right for the car with the kids.
Yeah.
Our kids are in danger. It's like, you feel for it. You don't want the kids to be in. They're the future generation. However you feel about them, they're our future. And you got to save them. And, like, even people who don't like kids are going to be like, I don't want anything happening to them.
Yeah.
So it's cheap, but it works. And as long as you don't take it too far, I mean, I really hope nobody ever makes a slasher movie where the guy targets kids.
They did. It was called Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, those are teenagers are different. Everybody wants teenagers.
Freddy's origins were the attack children. So.
We talked about that last time.
Yeah,
everybody wants teenagers dead.
Yeah. But yeah, Piranha's very good. It's got a great cast. Bradford Dillman.
It's a great concept too.
It is, because it's like a Cold War movie. Because the Piranha were made to invade the rivers of like Vietnam.
Yeah,
and they could survive in salt water.
It has just enough subtext, enough metaphor to work.
So it's basically our own weapons are turned against us because we didn't handle them correctly. And what's the actor's name? He's a scientist that creates the piranhas. He's
oh my gosh.
You know what I'm talking about? Like I want to say like R.J. Well, R.J. Fletcher is who he played in UHF. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Kevin McCarthy?
That's it, Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy, he plays Dr. Robert Hoak. He created the Piranha.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a cool character. Feels guilty for what he created.
Yeah.
And he ultimately sacrifices himself to save a kid later in the movie. Like, he jumps in the water to pull a kid out.
He's also one of those great old-time actors that, like, you just know his face.
Yeah, he's great at playing a sleazy bastard.
Well, but he was sort of the hero, and he was in Invasion of Body Snatchers.
Yes, he was in the original.
Yeah,
he was the one that like tried to warn the world. That's him.
I remember him now. All right, so
but I think I think it's a little more horrifying. I mean, having one big animal like gulp you down in 2 bites is scary.
Well, there's no one thing to kill. That's what's horrifying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you're in the water, and about 30, 70 of these things are biting at you from every direction, and they could reduce you to bones in seconds.
It's a different thing to fight. So it becomes a new. Oh, how do we solve this?
Yeah.
Because when it's one thing, blow it up.
Yeah.
That's like...
This one is destroy the entire ecosystem of the river. They poisoned the river to kill them, and it didn't work because there's a sequel. And 2 remakes. And there's a sequel, but James Cameron, but he dropped off the project shortly after he started.
But he got depressed and came up with Terminator, so don't be so down about it.
And I like Piranha 2 for what it is.
Alright.
The grunion flying fish piranhas that fly around.
Alright, after Piranha is...
Orc is good. I like Razorback more.
God has created it. And hell has given it a name. Now, there's a new breed of terror. Razorback.
Razorback, like...
It's more of an
very
artsy film.
No, it's very straightforward. The Razorback does some stuff that, like flying through walls and stuff that's really out there.
It's the size of a bus.
Even though it is taking a baby.
It's not dingoes you gotta worry about.
Which sort of makes fun of something that really happened, tragically, but with dingoes. It's so bad that woman got made fun of for that, and it ended up being true.
Yeah.
I think she even went to jail for it.
Really?
Yeah, they thought she killed her kids. It turned out to actually be dingoes. But then Razorback got made. And,
that's actually the plot of it. It bursts into the house and takes a guy's baby, like his grandson in the beginning. And then he becomes the Quint of the movie. He's always out there hunting Razorbacks.
Sort of. I mean, he doesn't have Quint's class.
Yeah. And it's basically Jaws with hooves.
It is.
A little bit of Alligator, too, because the creature, the reason it's so big is there's a plant polluting the area, blah, blah, blah.
It also has a couple Australian rapists wandering around.
Yes.
Which is weird.
Apparently
one of those guys is a great actor, too, and I don't know his name.
Why is every movie in Australia involve, like, Mad Max-style cars? Is it really like that?
I just based on their cinema, I assume 20 to 25% of Australia are, like, crazy hybrid redneck hicks that just, like, go around raping and eating things, that just anything that's alive. Moving along. I mentioned Orca. Orca's on there.
Orca, a spectacular adventure. From the depths of the sea to the top of the world. A fight to the death between the 2 most dangerous animals on Earth.
What in hell are you?
Man and Orca.
Orca's the most depressing of these movies.
It is, and for a PG film, it's very disturbing at times.
Yeah, when you have a whale abortion right in the beginning.
That scene, that's another scene that I was just
horrifying,
like...
and I didn't see whale tears. And yeah, that's really just you don't want to watch it, and you don't... The weird thing about Orca is that you root for the orca. You don't like the humans, and whatever outcome happens in the movie, you know it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
So it's really arduous to watch.
You do feel bad for Richard Harris's character, too, to a degree, because he feels guilt for what he did.
Yeah, but I think that's a credit to Richard Harris's acting. He's one of the greatest actors of all time. But that's a credit to his acting that he made that character sympathetic, because how he conducts himself and what he does is he's a slime bag. It doesn't matter that he feels bad about it. His actions are horrible in the movie. And it has the Indian guy from When It Flew Over.
I think it's Will Sampson, isn't his name? The actor?
I don't know. I said Indian. That's as un-PC as you can get.
These days, yeah.
Native American.
Pretty soon the patent office is going to remove our trademark. Grizzly's number 5.
I'm telling you, we got a Grizzly, and then some.
Grizzly is a cash-in, and the thing with Grizzly is, like, it does a lot of the things that Jaws did, only on land.
Oh my god, it totally rips off Jaws, unabashedly.
It's the downtime that Grizzly that I don't like. Like, the time between Grizzly and not Grizzly.
I think it's actually pretty effective until you actually see the real bear at the end. Every time there's a bear attack, you just see, like, this bear glove, like, grab somebody.
Yeah, when you see him, he's not that big.
And then when you see the bear at the end, you're like, oh, that's it?
That's the problem.
Yeah. And then they kill it with a bazooka just to blow him up at the end. It's hilarious. It's a really cheap effect.
What Jaws had going for it was you already had a fear. If you get in open water and you can't see underneath you, you're afraid. It doesn't matter if it's a fish or a crab or whatever you're stepping on. Like, you're alert, you're afraid, you don't know what's under there, and it doesn't matter what it is. If it's big, you don't like it. Everybody walks around on land all the time. The grizzly's got to be like twice as big as a normal grizzly for it to be effective. When you see it's just like, was it even a grizzly? It looked like a Kodiak.
I think it was a Kodiak bear, yeah.
Because for some reason they're bigger, but they don't eat people. I don't know.
There's 2 scenes I really like. There's one where, like, a woman's in a tent, and the bear, like, rips it up and pulls her out. Like, you have that Jaws moment where you don't see the creature, but you see her getting whipped back and forth. That was pretty effective. And I crack up, I know I shouldn't, but there's that scene with that little boy. He chases his rabbit out of the yard. There's a white picket fence around the house, and he grabs the rabbit, comes back in. And it's one of those gotcha moments, because you think the bear's going to show up right when the kid leaves the house. But once he's back in the safety of the fence, the bear suddenly shows up and, like, picks the kid up and bear hugs him. And then the kid's leg just falls off for no reason.
Yeah, it's almost as funny as Day of the Animals with Leslie Nielsen. But yeah, it's right there with that.
And then there's something else about it.
I can't rate it that high, though. I think that really falls into the ones like Tentacles and...
Like the mid-range ones?
Yeah. And then ones that you would not consider. You don't think they're that related, but I do.
Like what?
I think Tremors is...
Oh, Tremors is awesome. It's one of my favorite monster movies.
Tremors is the on-land Jaws movie.
I love that movie.
Tremors is amazing.
I was happy to finally see it in 35mm in a big screen a couple years back.
I'm shocked and disappointed in the human race that Tremors was not a huge box office.
It's got a fan following now, but that's how so many films go anymore. The good ones slip between the cracks. And
I think Tremors will go down as the Pacific Rim of its generation, where like people didn't go watch it, but somehow they watched it when it was on video or DVD.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is awesome. Why didn't I watch this?
Yeah, no, Tremors is great.
Tremors is awesome. A foreign film, The Host. I think we mentioned it before.
I like The Host
That's
a lot.
very Jaws movie. Mm-hmm. It's the problem with both of those is they deal with things that don't really exist, where Jaws does exist. But the format is there.
Yeah.
And the format is there stronger than it is in other movies that are directly ripping off nature versus man. Mm-hmm. So I have to include those are my top ones, really, because they're really entertaining and they're good. They're well made and they stand on their own. And you don't think of Jaws when you're watching it, but then when you get done, you're like, yeah, that was kind of a Jaws movie.
Yeah.
When you're thinking of Jaws too much, that's when you know the movie failed.
You mean when you're wanting to stop watching this movie and go watch Jaws is when the film failed?
Yes.
Okay.
When you're like, wow, Jaws did that better. Jaws did that better. So that's where Tentacle falls in.
This summer, Ocean Beach has attracted something else. It slept until man disturbed it. Then it woke with a fury no man could control, rising from the ocean floor to bring destruction and death. Tentacles.
Tentacles is...
I don't hate that one, but it's really slow.
But it's got this M. Night Shyamalan motivation for the octopus.
It follows radio signals to look for prey.
Ooh, radio signals, what a twist.
And it kills a baby right in the beginning of the movie.
I just don't, I can't get around that movie at all.
It has a great soundtrack, you gotta give it that, though.
No, I'm not giving it anything. I don't have to give it anything.
What?
I don't have to give it anything.
Stelvio Cipriani, you gotta listen to it.
No.
Okay, fine. I like
not
Tentacles.
That forgiving. Remember, I'm the attacker, you're the defender.
I know. Alright, what else you got for me?
Well, you put down the worst as Island Claws. Is that the one with the giant crabs?
It is.
I saw that when I was real little and it was horrifying, and I saw it when I was an adult and I was like, wow, you'll be scared of anything when you're a child.
It's kind of mid-range for me, but you don't see the title creature. I mean, it's not even a title creature. There's a giant crab in it. You don't see it till the very end, and it's just a giant mock-up of a crab. And yeah, there's all this build-up towards it.
There are those things. You know, I was watching a movie with my dad. I think I was like 15 or 16, and I can't even remember the movie. But the suit of the monster was so bad, we laughed when you finally saw it.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember what it was. But then I turned to my dad and I said, you know, we're laughing now, but if we went downstairs and we saw that thing, we'd scare, we'd scream. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between watching something on, if something's going to be on film, it has to be even more horrifying than it is in person.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of these movies fail. Oh, it's just a giant crab. If you went outside my house right now and there was a 40-foot crab, like an Island Claws, not only would you defecate immediately, but you'd run back inside and be like, do you have a gun? You know, I mean, it would be, you would take...
No. Do you have butter?
We need a giant pot and boiling water. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
if I was faced with it in real life, in reality, I'd probably be terrified.
I think some of these guys don't realize what it takes to make someone scared in a movie seat as compared to what you would be afraid of in real life.
Yeah.
Just because you'd be afraid of it in real life doesn't mean it needs to be filmed. You can't make a movie about your wife running away from a cockroach. But, or if you...
But if the cockroach is the size of a dog...
Or if there's 10,000 cockroaches, that changes everything.
That's true, yeah.
Arachnophobia.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Love it.
You also have, I haven't seen it, Tintorera.
Is
that Italian?
It's an Italian movie. It's called, like, The Tiger Shark or something. It fools you. It fools you into thinking, oh, this is a Jaws ripoff. Well, it's not. It teases you with a shark attack in the beginning, and the shark's like this ever-present fear in the background.
Yeah.
The movie itself is about these two guys and this chick getting on a boat and enjoying a summer together, just having threesomes.
You want to watch it later?
It's terrible.
I'm kidding.
It's terrible. I bought the movie because I was on like a shark kick once.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never heard of this. This is going to be good. I pop it in. I'm like, shark attack in the beginning, cool. And then just the minutes tick by. I'm like, what the hell is this? It's just a weird love triangle.
Yeah.
Where two guys could plow the same woman on and off again and not be jealous with each other and actually like high-five each other at one point.
Oh, gosh.
I don't think at the same time.
Seems like a...
I might have added that in for effect. I only watched it once. But like towards the end, like she ends up getting eaten by the shark, so they like form a bond, like we will kill this creature, and then
because this thing ate our
woman. So at the very end of the movie, they try and jump in the water with spears and kill it, and the shark eats them, and the movie's over. And
they all die?
They all die, and you're like, what?
That sounds horrible, and I'm not ever going to watch it.
We're going to watch it sometime.
No, I'm not going to watch that. We don't need to get into every bad one, because there are 100,000 jobs.
I know, that's why I only put a few on the list there.
You know, Jaws even popped up in Zombie 2.
I forgot to mention that, yeah, the shark and the zombie fight in that movie.
It's random. It doesn't need to be there.
That whole movie's random, but it's awesome.
It's a good movie, yeah.
And it's never been done since. There's been no attempt to recreate that scene, as far as I know.
Zombie versus Shark?
Yes.
That should be the name of a blog.
Right? I think it is. But yeah, that scene's crazy. They used a real shark. It was doped up beyond belief, probably. And
tiger shark, too, wasn't it?
I think so. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I love that scene. And it fits.
Alright, so the last shark, I want you to talk about that a little bit.
That one is interesting. It was directed by Enzo Castellari. What year was that? Was that I'm gonna say 81. I think it was. It was released in America in theaters in like 82 or 83, and it only lasted for maybe 2 or 3 weeks because Universal sued them. It was made by Film Ventures International.
This is the one with Vic Morrow?
This is the one with Vic Morrow basically playing like Robert Shaw.
Yeah, I remember you talking about this, and we still haven't watched it.
But it's really bizarre. There's a resort, a shark attacks it, but it changes enough up. I think think Universal was a bit over the line with suing Film Ventures over this film. because like there's a politician running and there's going to be a big regatta, and he actually does a smart thing. He puts nets across the entire bay. The shark can't get through initially. Eventually it does though.
Yeah.
And then of course it kills people, so people go out to hunt it, including Vic Morrow and James Franciscus, who are like the...
Now, which Vic Morrow is this? Is this the Vic Morrow from Twilight Zone? Is this the Vic Morrow from Creatures from the Deep? Which Vic Morrow?
It's
like which guy is he acting like? Because sometimes he's a really cool guy, and then sometimes
he's trying to act like Quint from Jaws.
Oh, okay.
Right. It's a complete ripoff.
Is it even the accent? Or?
He tries to do an Irish accent, and it's
then he's ripping off Robert Shaw.
It's a weird thing. He's ripping off Shaw and the character.
I've got to see this.
And
I knew of it, but I know I have to watch it. I should have watched it tonight instead of Jaws 3.
I was kind of hoping you'd just grab it and say, let's watch this. It has one of the best openings of any movie I've ever seen. It's 3 minutes of a guy windsurfing to a catchy pop tune.
Alright, you had me, and then you took me out of it.
I'm sorry.
So, at some point, we'll watch Ultimo Squalo.
L'Ultimo Squalo.
Yeah, anybody who can get a hold of that, check it out.
It is available through Retrovision.
It's one of those things like Paul Gassari, where the story behind it might be more interesting than the movie itself. We got to sit down and talk about Paul Gassari at some point.
We will.
Because that is insane. The backstory to that movie is insane.
It should be a movie in itself.
Yeah.
I do want to throw out Cruel Jaws as well. Somehow that one didn't get sued. It actually takes footage from Jaws and Jaws 2 and The Last Shark even, and edits them all together into a different movie, and it was even treated as a sequel to the Jaws films.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was by Bruno Mattei, who's made some of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. There's so much more we could talk about, but we're going to wrap things up.
And that goes back to what I said in the beginning. Jaws cast such a long shadow. You could talk 6 hours about everything it inspired and never reach the end. So let's go ahead and say it's probably the best movie ever made.
I'll go with that.
Alright, so next show. We haven't decided yet. I'll leave it up to you.
Okay.
Let me know.
Okay.
And for our listeners, it'll be a surprise.
Oh my.
This is Silent Steve signing out.
And this is Jordan signing out. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Smile, you son of a bitch!